How did a person get attached to cigarettes? If the person thinks about it, when he or she went to college and experienced the newfound freedom, he saw, my class fellow has got the cigarette dangling in his hand and he's creating these smoke rings. His personality is appearing very impressive. If I do the same, I will also be impressive. In other words, he contemplated happiness in that pipe which creates smoke. Such a ridiculous thing, but he contemplated happiness there. And he tried it out. But it was a terrible experience. He coughed. His eyes watered. It was foul smelling. But then he kept repeating this thought. No, there is happiness there. My friends get it. I will also get it. That repeated contemplation is what created the attachment. First it was one a day, hiding under the staircase and the restroom from the parents. And then after that, 2 a day, then 3 a day. Then it formed a link. One is over, he wants the other. That is over, he wants the next. Now he has got attached. This was created by his own repeated contemplation. Somebody contemplated happiness in tea. You know, when I tell people that, why do you take tea? It's not beneficial for health. The chemicals in it are not conducive for good health. Why do you take it? They say, Swamiji, if I don't take tea, my head will feel dizzy. Tell me, when nobody was drinking tea in this world, was everybody feeling dizzy? There was a time when tea was drunk only in England. However, when they ruled the world, they pass on the habit to others. I hear from my parents that in India, people were given tea free of charge. And later on, when they started getting addicted, they were charged 1 paise. Then it became 2 paise. And now people buy that little cup of tea for 5 rupees from the railway station. Now they have got attached. So that attachment which got created was by this process of repeated thinking, repeated contemplation of there being happiness somewhere. So the whole chain becomes clear. If we repeatedly think there is happiness somewhere, it will lead to attachment. And from attachment will come desire. From desire will come greed and anger. We seem to have got almost at the end of our research. Why now? Ponder over this point. Why do we repeatedly contemplate that there is happiness anywhere? Why does this contemplation take place? That, the Vedas say, is our very nature. That is the nature of our being. We have all emanated from an ocean of bliss. That supreme divine entity, whom you call God, Lord, Allah, Bhagavan, Ram, Sham, is an infinite ocean of bliss. We have been created from that infinite ocean of bliss. Our very nature is to seek bliss. As the little part is naturally drawn to the whole. That's the law of gravitation. The apple that fell on Newton's head, it was the earth pulling its little part. So in this case, the ocean of bliss is pulling us, its tiny fragments to itself. And we tiny fragments are naturally experiencing this urge for bliss. That is an irrevocable aspect of our personality that nobody can cut. You practice spirituality for ages. You practice science and technology for ages. You go to any portion of this world. You will never be able to do away with this urge to experience bliss and happiness. So this urge for bliss is natural to us. That is why somewhere or the other, based on the environment we get, based upon our tendencies carrying over, we contemplate, there is happiness here, there is happiness here. And once we have done that contemplation, the whole chain is now irrevocable. It will lead to attachment, which will lead to desire, which will lead to anger and greed. So when this urge for happiness is intrinsic to our being, how then do we tackle this process and utilize it for our benefit? Once we have understood the sequence, it can be put to our use. Now, without understanding the sequence, people endeavor. Give up anger. Give up anger. How do I do it? Is it some kind of a garland that I take it off and put it? I've given it up. Tell me how to give it up. You know, William James, he created a formula. He said there are two things. One is desire and one is the objects you have. If desire is a lot, the objects are less, you will be unhappy. If the objects are plenty, desire is less, you will be happy. So he said, reduce desire. Now, if I had a chance, I would ask him, that's all very well, but please tell me how to reduce desire. There was once a centipede that developed arthritis. Now imagine. A human being with arthritis, how painful it is, and a centipede with 100 legs having arthritis. So an owl was passing by. The owl looked at the centipede and said, you know, I'm feeling pity on your condition. Can I make a suggestion? The centipede said, go ahead. If you could become a swan, your miseries would reduce to just 2% of the present. The centipede said, that is a brilliant suggestion. Ha, I never thought of it till today. So, Mr. Owl, can you tell me how can I become a swan? The owl said, I don't know, I only make policy decisions. So similarly, it's all very well to say give up anger and give up desire. How do you do it? Now, one spiritual technologist who's the most prolific writer in the Vedic tradition, the great sage Vyas, he has put this whole technique of inner transformation into one verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Vishayan dhyaya taschittam vishayeshu vishajyate mamanusmara taschittam mayyeva praviliyate. He says, it is so simple. You repeatedly thought there is happiness in these objects of the senses, in worldly things. You developed attachment for them. Now you repeatedly think there is happiness in the place where you wish to channelize your desire. Ved Vyas, of course, is referring to God himself. He says repeatedly, contemplate there is happiness in God. And when you do that again and again, it will lead to attachment in God. Just like it led to attachment in these mundane things. And when you develop attachment for God, it will lead to desire for God. Or if you have developed attachment for knowledge, your intellect has repeatedly contemplated that knowledge is the highest thing. Service to society is the highest thing. And you contemplated over this sufficiently, you convinced your intellect about this. That will lead to attachment in these sublime things. And that attachment will lead to these higher desires. And those higher desires will not downgrade you, they will uplift you. So to desire is not wrong. To desire the right thing is the secret. These great sages, whom world over they are respected as great prophets, great sages and saints, what was common to all of them? An intense desire for the sublime, for the supreme, for divine love, for divine knowledge, for detachment from mundane things. They had this desire, the faculty of desire was millions of times greater developed than in us. But they had channelized it in the right manner. So in this technological system, you decide, focus, analyze, what is it that you cherish in life, that you wish to become, that you hold in high esteem in your intellectual value system, and then contemplate sufficiently over it. That contemplation will result naturally in everything else. When you develop the intense desire, sa yat kamo bhavati tat kratur bhavati, yat kratur bhavati tat karma kurute, yat karma kurute tadapi nishpadyate. The Vedas give this formula for motivation. They say when you have an intense desire, you will make a determined resolve. When you have a determined resolve, you will put in intense effort. And when you put in intense effort, that is how you will become. Now the problem is, without understanding this system, we allowed our intellect to wander away. We allowed our intellect to do its work in an unguided manner. And if we can understand this, we can guide the intellect, and through the intellect guide the mind. So finally, I would like to present this model that is given in the Kathopanishad.